It's curious how some people, stupid people, confuse taking offence to harassment and trolling with not being able to take criticism. Naturally, I have always been fairly good at taking criticism to the point where I've actively encouraged my viewers to rip into my work in the past. You see, criticism is not a personal insult, and those who are smart enough recognise if you don't throw a hissy fit and instead take it on board, your skills will improve. That is all I ever wanted for those I gave a less than glowing review about on this show, and the same most definitely applies to Celia, a pen name Ckat, the author of the fanfiction we're looking at today. Now, you may recognise the author as the lead voice actor of Pinky Pool, another fan work I reviewed in this series. Well, Ckat has been a long-time supporter of this channel and has helped promote me through Fanfiction, Facebook and Twitter. I'd also call myself a fan of hers to a degree. The point is, she's someone I have a lot of respect for, and her fanfiction is, well, it's not terrible, it's not even bad, but I wouldn't think any less of her as a person if it was. A Pony's Sympathy is actually a very early entry in the fandom, the first chapter originally being published as far back as 2011. That means the story was conceived before Keep Calm and Flutter On, and naturally it's interesting to make comparisons between the two timelines. In this universe, it is Twilight instead of Fluttershy who first befriends Discord, with some added shipping feels thrown in for good measure. The first chapter opens with Twilight confronting an escaped Discord in the Everfree Forest. It's always nice to be thrown into the thick of the action with no "it was a sunny day in Ponyville" nonsense. As Twilight attempts to reason with Discord, we get an insight into her motivation. Twilight remembered when she didn't think she needed friends, how she'd compensated with books and magic studies. She hadn't realised that something had been missing, and the tiniest part of her was starting to wonder if maybe he didn't realise that either. Clearly, Twilight sees a reflection of how she used to be in Discord, and it's also believable that she'd be open-minded enough to at least consider Discord's arguments about the balance between chaos and order. But here we come to the first major problem with A Pony's Sympathy, and something which continues on into its sequels. There are too many long, drawn-out sequences of dialogue with very little progression, with the consequence that the pacing falls limp at times. Evidently, Ckat is trying to work in some high-concept themes, and she addresses this in a recent blog entry, but these themes never feel quite integrated enough and tend to take the form of extended metaphysical debates and musings, padding out a plot that is actually pretty thin. Honestly, Ckat, I think you were being unnecessarily ambitious when if you just focused on telling an engaging story you would have done a lot better. Same goes for the inclusion of Discord. I know he's a favourite of yours, but he's also an arse to write, because most of the wacky visual gags you see in the show just don't translate well into prose. Credit to Celia for at least trying to incorporate some of his visual antics, mostly in the form of funhouses and thrones made of cake, but I can't really blame her for giving up halfway through the first sequel and turning him into a pony, in a homage to the Star Trek episode Deja Q. As far as the rest of A Pony's Sympathy goes, Twilight and her friends hunt down Discord while she struggles to convince them not to turn him back to stone. During the later chapters in particular, this situation becomes quite antagonistic, with the main six coming off as stubborn and closed-minded. Now, Ckat, I've seen people lambast you for having characters that sometimes come across as unlikable or make silly decisions, but you do not want to pay attention to those people. Most of them are probably the same uncritical idiots who complain when a main character is shown to have the slightest flaw, yet ironically can't go 5 seconds without drivelling about Mary Sue's. And besides, when you look at seasons 3 and 4, Applejack and Rainbow Dash especially behave exactly how you portrayed them with regard to Discord. This is one aspect of the story you absolutely nailed, and I love it. So anyway, as events come to a head, it seems Twilight's friends are not going to be convinced and Discord will be blasted back into stone. But then, just as they begin to use the elements of harmony, something strange happens. Though events may be misconstrued and words can be mistrusted, emotions never ever lied. When the elements were being utilised, their bearers' emotions were intertwined, and they could all feel each other's feelings. The idea of the elements working in this way is something I can accept, but the groundwork for this payoff should really have been laid down earlier. If you define the rules of the universe as you are going along to serve the plot in this way, then it can come across as contrived. In her What I Would Do Differently blog, Ckat notes a problem with the believability of Celestia and Luna's power over Discord in the sequel. Well, it's a similar issue again. You didn't clearly establish the laws of the universe. How does turning Discord into a pony actually work? What are the limitations to what they can do? These sort of details really enhance that believability factor. Something else mentioned in the blog is the romance subplot between Twilight should have been more prominent. Again, you've recognised a problem but then misidentified how to treat it. It's not that the stories necessarily need more moony scenes, as you put it, rather the romance that is there should be better integrated. There's one early plot point in which Discord kisses Twilight as a ploy to block her magic from working, but after that you could basically remove the romance scenes completely and little would change for the most part. As with the themes, the subplot feels somewhat bolted on. Now the thing is, I know unlike some others, Celia will learn from this. The very fact she's written this reflective blog entry shows she's the kind of inwardly thinking, self-critical artist who will take what I have to say and use it to do better. Hell, she already is doing better. From what I read of Deja Discord, it's an improvement, mainly because there is just more going on and more at stake, with Cloudsdale sinking and Tartarus about to be breached. Ckat has the potential to do great things, and although a pony's sympathy might not demonstrate it, and I stress once more, it's not terrible by any means, with the right approach she will most certainly get there. This is Midnight Chimes, waiting for the last train back to Ponyville. If you enjoyed watching this, then you should like and subscribe, as it helps support me, and more importantly, you'll get notified when I release a future video.